You're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
4 seconds left. In front. Happy moment. The Tampa Bay Lightning have won the first Stanley Cup. And the Tampa Bay Lightning have won the Stanley Cup. Lightning strikes twice. The Tampa Bay Lightning win their second straight Stanley Cup.
Good evening and welcome back to another RBLR Sports. I'm Joe Zamatara, once again taking over hosting duties from a tardy Jake Ricker. Joining me is Matt Gann as always. This week we finally actually have some Lightning news for you. And after that, we'll discuss some of our favorite Lightning players that were not acquired through the draft. But first up, Matt, how you doing today?
I'm just peachy, Joe. Always glad to be back. Happy to be here. It sucks Jake can't be here, but thank you for taking over hosting duties. I think you do a terrific job. So,
I appreciate you, man.
Yeah, again, heart of the off season. It's feeling like a real long summer for the Lightning. I'm glad we got a little trickle of news with some new numbers coming in. So, do you want to dig into that?
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool seeing some of the new guys that are going to be on the team, and they actually have numbers. And this is actually, thanks to our partners at the Bolt Report. They put out the tweet regarding this, so I'm taking the information directly from them. But first off, Gunsel is going to be wearing. I'm going to present these as the previous player that held that jersey number. Give our people watching a chance to see if they can remember what jersey number these guys had. And if you is your first time watching on the show, thank you for joining us. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe as well as the notification bell so you can hear every time that we go live. But first up is Jake Gunsel, and he's going to be wearing the number that Jake Dotchin last had, worn in 2018. All right. Then we also have Cam Atkinson. His number is going to be one that Boris Tkachuk had in 2022. J.J. Moser is going to be wearing Matt Tompkins' old number, who wore it last year in 2024. And Gergensen's got Jack Thompson's number, who was again worn in 2024. So Jake Dotchin bringing up a guy that, man, I wish he was still wearing a number. If he didn't kind of fail out a little bit physically, I think he still would have been a good NHL defenseman.
Yeah, he kind of had a sad career. I don't know if you can call, making the NHL and, being a solid member of a lineup for a little bit, a sad career, but it was a sharp fall off.
A sad end?
I guess. Yeah. Just kind of a simmer out. He got traded or signed to the Ducks after his Lightning tenure and just failed the team physicals. He put on a lot of weight. I thought he was fine while he was here. It's sad that his best moment or most notable moment, I guess you could say, was the spear by Brad Marchand on him, if you remember that way back when. But a bit of a sad way to end the career. But yeah, I thought he was solid when he was with the Bolts, wearing number 59 way back when.
So yep, Gunsel's going to be wearing that for us now. I expect to see a whole lot of 59 on the ice, and probably will be one of our marquee players for years to come. Moving on to Atkinson, he's going to be wearing Tkachuk's old number, which is number 13. Also notably worn by maybe someone that will be brought up a little bit later as well. J.J. Moser has 90, and Gergensen 28. So that's the big Lightning news for the week. What we have been looking forward to is just some sort of stimulation regarding the team. So, it's better than absolutely nothing like we've been sitting on for a few weeks.
I didn't know that. Dotchin playing on Yager's team was at Kladno in the Czech Republic. That's kind of cool.
Oh, I guess he's still playing professional hockey then. They're not in the leagues yet where you have to pay to play like guys like me. We monitor how much each league costs and fees are for our AVV. But coming up, I guess we'll move right on to our next topic, which is really just going to be going over some of our favorite Lightning players that weren't acquired through the draft. These are guys that we've either picked up through free agency or through a trade, or just were completely signed undrafted. And kind of the point of this is these are guys that would have developed outside of our system that we saw, or that the Lightning saw as somebody that would be valuable, and indeed proved valuable to the team. So do you want to, since this was your idea, Matt, do you want to start off with some of your favorite hits? We'll go ahead and list, I guess, a guy for 3 forwards, 2 D-men, and a goalie.
Well, so do you want to do this draft style? Like, I'll make a pick, you make a pick, I'll make a pick, or?
Sounds perfect to me.
So another question. Are we doing it like at these players' peak, or like when they were with the Lightning?
So actually the people that I'm choosing mostly because they're memorable to me more than they would build an all-star team. It's something that I, just guys that I think are important to the organization as a whole. So they didn't necessarily make the biggest impact on the ice, but they were important to the Lightning.
Okay. All right.
You can blow my team out of the water by getting a bunch of sluggers. That, isn't going to be who I have.
See, I just had a couple, ideas in my head. Gergenson's jersey would be crazy. I support it though. No, I had a couple of players in my head who, I was going for the skill, not so much the memorable aspect.
So, okay, I'll let you go first, and I assume who you, in that case, are going to be taken off the board right from the go. So, why don't you take it away?
I guess if you're going to give me the first overall pick, it's a pretty easy one, but it's got to be Marty St. Louis. A little bit, but before my time being able to watch the Bolts, but still, you can't, talk about this team without talking about Marty St. Louis. He's been a horse beat to death with how much we love him around here, and maybe a bit of a salty end still to Joe apparently, but.
I mean, I was fine until last episode. I swear to God, I hadn't even thought about the finale of his tenure for the Lightning until we had that episode. Go back and listen to it if you haven't yet. But I was getting over it, and then it was like ripping a Band-Aid off, or worse, reopening old wounds.
Yeah, again, Marty St. Louis, he is the only correct answer you can take for the first overall pick. I guess it's kind of a testament to how well the Lightning have drafted, over the years, being able to pluck superstars out, whether it be at the first overall pick or a high draft pick, or even just late, in a nothing round or something like that. There's some good names that we just simply can't use, but arguably the best or second best player, wherever you want to slot him as, the best or second best player in the franchise's history so far. Easy answer for number one. What are you thinking for your pick?
14 and a half years and all the goals that he, and memorable moments. That's and a cup winner. That's a big one for the Lightning, and yeah, definitely he's got to be one that goes first overall. I went also for my first pick with a smaller guy, but I think that he was somebody that it was either going to be Marty or him, because they kind of had similar starts in a way. Tyler Johnson.
Oh,
yeah. So Tyler Johnson, undrafted, came up through the Admirals and through the AHL, and then became a really important big part of the team. Went to the Stanley Cup with the Lightning, but unfortunately, he had that was against the Blackhawks, and had a broken wrist and was playing through a whole bunch of injuries, and obviously the Lightning didn't win, but he did make a Stanley Cup appearance with our Bolts, and I think he really did a lot coming in with as that original fresh jump of talent that was brought up from the Admirals, and he was a real big impact player.
Oh yeah, that was definitely a player I had slotted, ready to be a winger on my list or something like that. Everybody loves Tyler Johnson, even to this day. I don't think he's currently under contract. His game rapidly declined with the Lightning, but, at his peak, he was dominant. He was great, with that triplets line, centering the two of Palat and Kucherov, and just what both of those players ended up turning into. What an amazing time to be a Bolts fan. That triplets line is, not only talked about in Lightning circles, but in hockey circles, just in general, how electric it was. Cardiac Kids esque type of line. It was great. And yeah, Tyler Johnson, a huge part of it. He was honestly my first favorite like Lightning player. I got one of the hoodie jersey things, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
With the Tyler Johnson #9. I always, just like Marty, always kind of appreciated and liked his game as well, because I'm a short fella myself. So I always, kind of resonated with their style of game, playing, above their weight class, I guess.
He's definitely someone that was playing above his weight class, and he said that triplets line, they were really fun to watch, and also watching those players mature kind of away from each other. As Dan says, the incredible line in 2015, watch them mature away from each other. I'm sure some people will claim that they saw that Kucherov was going to be the best of those three. But, for a while there, I was thinking it was going to be Tyler Johnson was going to be the best to come out of that line and, basically just fill the shoes of Marty, which apparently, despite his smaller size, they're pretty big shoes to fill.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. No. Well,
I was going to say, you want to go with your next one?
I suppose so. I think I'm going to take it in a different direction. I think I'm going to go with a defenseman. You can't have somebody anchoring the team without your number one defenseman. And a player who's no longer with us, but still fresh in our memory, Mikhail Sergachev.
All right.
I don't know. It might be a bit of a reach, but again, we all saw Sergey at his best. We saw him at, his worst as well. He had some warts in his game, but you can't deny that he wasn't a fan favorite. Everybody loved it. Most people loved him. And yeah, he had his up and down moments, but you can't deny that. Given, when Hedman went down a couple of years ago, Sergey took that number one D-man role and ran with it. It was his best season ever by a long shot. It's sad he's no longer on the team. I like the trade we got from him, but he was such a good member of the Bolts while he was here. He was drafted by Montreal. He only played a handful of games for them, and I mean a handful. I think it was 4 games for Montreal, maybe even less. But yeah, Sergachev. Yeah, I think that's a relatively easy answer to be your number one guy.
Sure, he was a first-round draft pick, and as Jake always likes to say, I mean, it's a little dated now because he's a year older, but he's only 24 years old. And, he has 2 cups to his name, signed huge contracts, and obviously he's in Utah now. But, a huge part of the success of the Lightning had to be their defensive game, and he was a big part of that, being part of the top 2 pairings. I like that pick. I actually thought you were going to go another route with it. So since you took somebody that was on my list, I'll go ahead and take a guy that we lost, but welcome back, Ryan McDonough. Yeah, McDonough again, huge part of the defense for this team. American born and bred boy, and has two cup rings as well with the Lightning.
Yeah, that was a guy I don't know if I was going to take next, but he was somebody that, I wanted, and I don't know, did McDonough and Sergachev ever really play together? Were they ever a pair? Because I know Sergachev, he'd always, he could play really either side, but again, McDonough,
I can't honestly remember.
They might have been
together
at times.
I'm sure it's a few shifts, but I don't know that they played that much because they didn't like having Sergachev on the right side as much.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, still, just a great pick. McDonough, we can go on and on about him like we kind of did, or I kind of did last week. Still a relevant player too. He's very, very welcomed back for this team. Again, just he brings such an immeasurable presence to the team, whether it be leadership or just great play on the ice. He does have, admirable intangibles that his game provides, again, that you can't, quantify or qualify. McDonough, he's such a great player. I'm really excited. I don't think it's understated how excited I am to have him back on this team and maybe be that stabilizing force we need back on the back end, because things fell apart once he left, defensive wise. So maybe he can, despite being one of 6 guys, sometimes 7 guys, hopefully he can bring some stability back to the back end.
And that's something that we definitely need, because the Lightning have kind kind of taken a step away from that and have had some defensive struggles. You can blame it on the system. You can blame it on injuries, but either way, getting him on the back end there is going to help regardless. Even if it's just to eat minutes in a way where you're not producing offensively, but you're literally just playing the defensive side of the game and letting up in fewer chances. I mean, that guy blocks shots like crazy.
Oh yeah, him and Dan Girardi. I think those two played together very briefly. And those two were just a shot blocking defensive machine pair, Rangers pair as well too. So, I guess moving on to my third pick, this would be, I think I'm gonna go the goalie route. I might be taking one person on your radar. There, for only being
Right.
two of us here, there's two good options, but I'm gonna be going with Ben Bishop here. What was Daniel saying? I missed it.
You post that back up. Dan just posted, should a goalie have gone pick one over Marty? Don't feel like there's been a lot of great goalies added throughout the years. But
Well,
I mean,
apparently not.
for ones that, the way that I'm doing this draft in terms of the biggest impacts to the team as a whole, not necessarily just for one season, I think it's hard to minimize the presence of Marty. Just how much he did in the area and the community, and just as a player in general for the club. But yeah, you're right. There have been some really important ones, and yeah, that's a big pickup that you just listed there, Matt. I mean that we talked about it quite a bit last episode too, where that started to mark the time where we it was kind of like the end of our major goalie issues, where we were having big goalie issues for I don't know, for 6-7 years there.
Oh yeah, no, and it's going on a decade now, really, since that. I guess it's over a decade now. When did we get Bishop? 14, or was it before that?
Yeah,
it was a couple years before that.
Right here.
But
He picked him
regardless,
up in 13.
Okay.
At the end of 13, he played 9 games, so it was really the 13-14 season.
yeah, it was. So we're going on a decade of elite goalie stability, not just good, get you by goalie stability, but you got two year in and out Vezina candidates, Vezina winners, and Stanley Cup winner. One of them. But just again, two elite goalies back to back. I was thinking about, the Rangers, they had, Henrik Lundqvist, and now they've got Igor Shesterkin. How spoiled must they be? Because, Henrik, he was around a lot longer and better for a lot longer than Bishop was too. So two spoiled franchises, except one's good and one thing's. I have to get my Rangers kick in. So yeah, Bishop, I think it was an easy answer for me too. And I don't know. Do you really think he really should have slid to the third round? Because as we've gone on doing this list, you've kind of talked me into going with the icon players and not like the best players available.
He maybe could have been put above one or two of the choices, like possibly Tyler Johnson, because the stability he provided, he really helped usher in that other section of like the success of the franchise, I guess, is what I'm kind of looking for. And with him, we went to a Stanley Cup final. At that point he was injured, but I mean he was a huge part of the team, so maybe it isn't fair to have dropped him that far down the list, but yeah,
this is a question strictly out of curiosity, because I know the answer is probably no, of can you retire the number 30, but can you make an argument for it? I know the answer is probably no, but can you make an argument for retiring Ben Bishop's number? Does that make an inkling of sense?
I can understand an argument, but my counter argument would simply be it was only 4 years.
Or maybe not even retire the number, but get in that Ring of Honor maybe some time down the road.
Ring of Honorable Mention, maybe.
Wow. Okay. So just outside, maybe a picture in the hallway or something.
A picture in the hallway on the way to the Ring of Honor. Our producer Eureka, who was born in Denver, would like to point out that Bishop is the second best sports guy born in Denver.
Oh, is number 1 Eureka? I think it's Eureka.
Is he saying he's the number one sports guy? Nice.
Of course.
All right. Well, I'm going to. I'll follow. I'm going to follow suit with you and grab another goalie and just kind of match them one for one here. And with that, I'm going with the one goalie that we actually did acquire that won us a cup. That wasn't through the draft, and that is Javi Bullen. His stats weren't as good as Ben Bishop for the franchise, but man, that was some incredible performance that he had in the playoffs, and really was somebody that helped us win a cup. He played outstanding in those finals, and without him, I don't think that hockey in Tampa would be what it is.
Oh yeah, and again, another guy that's I never got to watch play for the Bolts or anything, but just going back watching highlights, you can you can appreciate it, and not necessarily a Hall of Fame goalie or anything like that, but a necessary guy in the story of the Lightning, of course. One of the most iconic, I guess, parts of an iconic call is Javi Bullen knocks it away, with 3 seconds to go in the 04 Stanley Cup. He wasn't with us very long either, kind of a career length, sort of close to Bishop's, like 4 or 5 years here with Tampa, and just never really was a consistent goalie, but man, was he good at the right times, I guess. He's an icon here in Tampa, and maybe the owner of the best goalie nickname of all time, the Bullen Wall. Does it get any better than that? Do you put Javi Bullen in the Ring of Honor? I think he deserves a spot.
I mean, it was an electric performance that he put up, and I could see it because it was our first cup. The first cup is so important to a franchise. It's something that once you have your first, you're always a winner. And there's definitely some franchises that are going to be searching for decades for their first, and it's a tough road. And it's easier picks to put those guys in that Ring of Honor if they won it for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I never getting to watch Javi Bullen, but only seeing, the highlights, the big save, the big moments from him. Was he kind of like a loosey-goosey style of goalie, like Vasilevsky? He's dialed in. He's the big cat.
Yeah. So Vasi, from what I understand, and we've seen pictures, kind of grew up idolizing Javi Bullen as another Russian goalie. And he, I would say that he would be extremely dialed in. He always had this thing that he would do with his eyes. I'm not going to try to imitate it, but it was he would just have some crazy eyes during
Javi Bullen or Vasi?
Javi Bullen.
Oh,
during like the TV timeouts or right before a puck drop, he'd just do some eye stretches, I suppose, maybe just opening his eyes up more, and he looked insane when he would do it. But my buddies, really one buddy, and actually, go ahead, Eureka, and post that last one from I Like Collectibles. We used to call him Swiss Cheese Boy because he would let in some softies during the season, and it was a tag team performance with him and John Graham that actually got us through that season. And it was, it was one of the better performances considering how he did for the regular season for Javi Bullen.
Okay. Yeah, again, just seeing some of the saves. They're very extravagant saves, but again, I'm only watching highlight reels, so I guess that's the big flashy saves, I guess. So
a little bit different era too, just starting to really get more of the modern goaltending styles.
And now I guess I know where Vasi gets his crazy eyes from too. And I know Connor Hellebuck, he also does the like for his pregame warm up, he does those like eye stretches. Again, not going to try to replicate it or anything, but just scanning the ice and trying to track things as best as they can without moving their head or something like that. Hellebuck, he's also got the crazy eyes, and another elite goaltender.
Maybe there's something to it, that maybe there should be a class specifically just for doing eye stretches before you get on the ice there.
Maybe when you're playing goalie for Candace's next game, you start doing your eye stretches.
Yeah, freak everybody out. They'll think that I actually have something going on. Once you go on to your next player.
Okay, I guess I'm going to work my way back up, not taking a forward. I'm going to go with another defenseman, somebody else who was before my time, but somebody that's really important to this team. I'm going to go with Dan Boyle. Is that who you were thinking of?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Um, I don't know a lot about this player. Again, never got to watch him, but from all accounts, it sounds like he was a great two-way defenseman. Could get it done at either end of the ice. Could really lock it down, but also put up points. Not a 70, 80 point defenseman or anything like that, but got you some good passing and good puck movement from the back end. Could lock it down, when needed. Am I in the ballpark, Joe?
I mean, yeah, you're right. He didn't get 70, 80 points. His highest was what, 50, looking at his stat, 63. But I mean, he did have some real explosiveness to his game. I remember going to one game, and it was against the Rangers, and he actually got a hat trick as a defenseman.
Wow.
Yeah, so he had that ability, and he wasn't a huge guy for a D. I think he was like 5'11". But he was really, really fast, and he used that speed to make the ice a lot smaller, and then had that offensive upside to him. As I like collectibles say, Dan Boyle was fun to watch.
So, were his best years in Tampa? Do you think he's like most known for being a bold? Because he played for a couple of different teams, not really a suitcase, but he had a couple different jerseys.
I mean, I would personally say so. That's also where I was most familiar with him. I mean, he played for the Panthers as well, where he started to up his game. He had like a handful of goals playing for the Panthers when he first joined the league in 98, 99. Played 22 games and had 3 goals, 5 points, which is pretty good for someone that's just breaking in. And then when he went to the Sharks after the Lightning, he started to slow down a bit. He was still pretty consistent and had a 57, 58 point season. I guess he was really consistent until, he started in like 15, 16. By that time, he was on the Rangers, and he had only 24 points, but he still had 10 goals. So he's just always been a good offensive defenseman.
Mm-hmm. Knowing what you're getting and consistency, is kind of the two big things that you can ask for out of any hockey player, but especially a defenseman. Consistency is key with a lot of things in hockey, but a lot of things in life too. So I'm happy with that choice.
Well, so it ends up coming to fruition then. I mentioned that number 13 might be coming up again, and I had a feeling we'd be battling it out with picks, so I am going with a guy that wore number 13 for the Lightning. You know
Cedric
what?
Paquette.
That's cheating. No, I was going to go defensively for Kubina because I didn't realize that he was actually selected by the Lightning. When I did my initial research, it did not show him as being selected, so that's cheating. And let me see if my third pick, make sure that I'm looking at a good source. You know what? I'm gonna go with Strawman, and this is one that has more lasting effects rather than completely on the ice performance. It's more of him being able to help Hedman with his game, and because I really don't think I have many other places I can go defensively.
No,
for guys that weren't for guys that weren't drafted by the Lightning, because I mean, when you look at who we've had over the years, there's some really good names that we've drafted. But Strawman did a lot for Hedman, for stabilizing our D, and he was a really good player.
Yeah, he was a good puck mover, good shutdown guy as well. Towards the end of his tenure, towards the end of his career too. Like I remember, he was kind of a villain in Florida when he signed there. He was kind of like our Matt Carl, if you will. He was just their scapegoat. But while he was on the Lightning, he was always reliable for putting up 30, 40 points or something like that. Maybe not even that much, but just again another stabilizing force. And I'd never really considered the fact that being countrymen with Victor Hedman, maybe being an older veteran kind of guy, ushering him into Hedman's era of dominance, if you will. He was one of the best defensemen in the league for a long time, still is, in my opinion. So I never really considered that fact either. So I really do like that pick. Other than that, the defenseman pool is slim pickings after these guys got selected.
Yeah. We actually have another message in chat that I really like. Somebody put together their list of players. Dan put Shattenkirk, Bogo, Malone, Maroon, Modine, Domingue. But it's his follow-up message there. You got that one up, Eureka? Oh wait, that's the party list.
I was like, those are interesting choices.
Yeah, I was gonna say you could have thrown a couple of other guys in there too that that could make it. But that would be
Andre Wall.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, man, he's one of my all-time favorites.
Shattenkirk is actually a good answer for having a defenseman or something if you're looking for the skill. He was a bit of a black hole defensively. He was only with us for that 2020 year. It seemed like every time he got a pass at the blue line or something, it'd either go in the net or in our net. A couple seconds after that, a bit of a risky player, but man, he could put up some points.
If anything, I would think that he would select the Lightning as one of his best decisions for a team that he went to, because it really did revitalize his career. He was that was kind of a risk taking him because he had some injury stuff, and then he was kind of on the outs, and then he comes here, gets a cup, and is back to being an elite defenseman where there's a lot of question marks before. Yeah,
and despite players earning two salaries at once, one is at a reduced rate or something, after being bought out. And, he had a decent contract signed by the Rangers. What was that? The summer of 2016, I think he signed or something like that. It was a hefty contract. He was the belle of the ball. He was kind of the big fish in free agency. And, he was decent in New York, but just wasn't worth the money that he was getting. But yeah, you'd think after getting two paychecks, a lot of these players would be cool, man. I'm making twice as much as I was. No, it's one of the lowest points in their career. Nobody wants to be bought out. Nobody wants to say, we're going to pay you not to play for us. Like that is a kick, man. So to revitalize his career here in Tampa, yeah, it probably was one of the best decisions he did ever make, because he signed a 4-year deal with Anaheim afterwards, or 3-year deal, something like that. Worth a pretty decent chunk of change. Too bad he didn't. Anaheim didn't do anything.
Yeah. He's double dipping on that paycheck too.
Exactly. Yeah. I wonder if he still is getting paid by New York. I think that contract might have lapsed, but regardless, that Shattenkirk is a good answer. I didn't even really consider that.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good deal. And speaking of good deals, you should visit shop.rblrsports.com and get a great deal using code BOLTS for 10% off. We have team-inspired merch, some unique gear that you'll only find here. So visit shop.rblrsports.com and look like a baller. All right.
One thing I forgot to add, too, is that Shattenkirk is the second best defenseman the Lightning acquired after a buyout from a New York team. Do you have any idea who the first is? It's Bogo.
Second best? I was going to say it has to be Bogo, right? Yeah.
Bogo's just the best acquisition a team's ever made. So,
but both times?
Anytime.
All right, so how about you? I think we have both two forwards left, right?
Yes, we do. And again, like I was saying earlier, you've kind of talked me out of, just going for the best player, I could really think of, or something like that. I'm kind of going for the fan favorites. Now with somebody, with offensive upside too, somebody who I think should currently be a captain of a team. He's got every quality you could ask for. And that's one Yanni Gourde. He's a guy that we all tremendously miss. And, he had some great seasons with the Lightning. His deal was a little rich. His production was kind of up and down, but he was a guy that you could never accuse him of not trying. Again, we always use him as the bar, the example of what a good, 200-foot player should be. Defensive and can put the puck in the net. Tenacious, punching above his weight class. Yanni Gourde is the gold standard for that kind of player. Again, he's the guy that we always use. Now it's kind of turning into like Brandon Hagel or something like that. But Gordo, what he did for this team and what that third line did as well, being able to put up the points that he did do. Undrafted, I think he, signed at the age of 26 or 27. Like he,
That's what I was just trying to look up, is when he was actually signed.
Yeah, like he's in his 30s now, but again, he's just a heart and soul, kind of guy. He's somebody who I would vote for as, being the captain of the Kraken. He's a fan favorite over there too. Quickly won the hearts of Bolts fans, quickly won the heart of Kraken fans too. Everybody loves Yanni Gourde. I don't think I've heard a bad word spoken about the guy, especially since he's
Oh,
left.
yeah. I mean, just in the smile that he always had on his face, even if he was getting into it with some of the other players on the ice, just had that devious smirk that he'd always be wearing. And he also is, a shorter player. I have him listed at 5'9". I thought he was a little bit taller than 5'9", but he's not a big guy, but did well for the Lightning. And definitely a guy that has some absolutely iconic moments for the Bolts and even off the ice. I'll never forget that boat parade that was absolutely washed out and like raining, and he somehow found it was just a dolly, that you would probably put a trash can on or something. So it's just 4 pieces of wood and like a square with 4 wheels underneath it, and he was basically surfing in the pouring rain, just being an absolute ham, having fun during the celebration. And I mean, there's so many pictures of him holding that cup that, yeah, definitely a great choice.
He was definitely the king of the rally, maybe not the parade, but the rally, air quotes, afterwards. He was the king
Yeah.
of it. One of my favorite moments from that rally was that was such a good day. I maintain that's probably one of my best top 3 days of my life. Even with it being rained out, but it was chaos. It was absolute utter chaos. Once that storm came through, and once the players started coming out, it just amplified everything by a billion.
Oh, yeah.
And then there were the the light towers, for the TV cameras, whatever. They were putting the spotlights, headed towards the stage, and the players kind of started coming out, throwing their beers, doing what they were doing in the pouring rain. And there was one dude that was climbing one of those light towers, and immediately cops were like, "Nobody get down." I don't know if he got detained, arrested, whatever happened or anything, but no more than 2 minutes later, Yanni Gourde gets up on the same tower, and the cops are like, I'm not going to be the guy that's getting him down. So I thought that was really funny because I was like right there, maybe 20 feet from that tower. And again, none of the
Yeah.
cops were even just kind of.
What's crazy too, though, is that wasn't just like a rainstorm. That was a really intense thunderstorm that came through. With lightning was really pounding outside, almost as if the gods were celebrating the victory as well. And probably isn't the safest thing to be climbing, not just from a falling aspect, but be a horrible end to a fun celebration if one of those would have gotten hit.
Oh yeah, no, I was like after the lightning had passed, and then the lightning could come and
Yeah.
have fun. But yeah, no, that storm, it was more than just your summertime afternoon storm. That was little. I like how you said, the gods celebrating with us.
We got one more post in chat here, Eureka, if you could pull it up. It rained at the Panthers parade too, but all 40 fans still showed up. They're dedicated. That group is very dedicated to still go out there. All right, for the next pick that I'm gonna pull up, it's again kind of a change in direction, but this is a guy that was actually drafted in 1983 by the Calgary Flames, but still to this day is part of the Lightning organization, and that's Brian Bradley. And I mean, basically from day one, he has been part of this team, continues to be part of the team, and a person that had at least one 40 goal. His first season with the Lightning was a 40 goal season. So even though I personally don't really remember him playing that much, just more highlight reels than actual games, because his last game was in '98. He's somebody that has kind of been like a heart and soul guy for the Bolts.
Yeah, there's a lot of players on this list that I never really got to watch, but was he ever a captain at any point?
He was just an alternate captain.
Okay.
I don't believe he ever was an actual captain.
Hey, wearing a letter is still, an impressive feat at any stretch. But yeah, Brian Bradley, I didn't know he was I knew he was a good player for the Bolts. I didn't know he was ever a 40 goal scorer for us or anything. I didn't realize it was that long ago that he played for us. 98 being his last year in the league or with the team.
Both.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
Both
Was he a career Bolt?
no, so he was
Oh, I guess
drafted
not.
by
If he's on this team, Calgary. You
yeah, he
said.
was drafted by Calgary and then played for the Canucks a few years, um, then a couple years with the Maple Leafs. And in those years, it doesn't look like he had more than he had a 19 goal season with the Canucks. But then once he came over here, he had a 42 goal season that first season with the Lightning, then a 24 goal season. So I mean, he was a really good player for the Lightning, and sometimes the only good player that the Bolts had.
Yeah, I guess you could argue that he might be the best player, in the '90s for the Bolts. Those were some real tough years. I guess if you had to encapsulate a decade, with one player, I guess that guy would be Brian Bradley.
All right, well, you want to move on to your final pick?
I do, and this is one that actually I'm shocked neither of us used this. Like you should be shocked too. Everybody watching this should be screaming at their, whatever they're using to listen or watch this. They should be screaming, but like you started and like I started getting into with, being icons and important members of the team, instead of going for, a great player. Why not both? He was only here for a really short time, but you cannot
Okay.
argue his importance. He
Okay.
has a statue out front, Dave Andreychuk. I don't know how either of us skipped him, but again, just another guy who you can't write the story of the Tampa Bay Lightning without mentioning. He was the captain of the first Stanley Cup winning team in Tampa here. Relatively, he was pretty old at this point. It was maybe who was it? Ray Bork lifting his cup in Colorado, and then Dave Andreychuk finally getting his cup here in Tampa. It's just a notch below that.
Yeah, before Andreychuk raised the cup, he was at the time the player that played the most NHL games without having won.
Wow, I didn't know that. And he's got he's got a Hall of Fame career. Is he a Hall of Famer? He's got to be. 'Cause, at a certain point, up until a couple of years ago, he was the all-time.
He's a NHL
Okay.
Hockey Hall of Fame.
And he was great with multiple teams. He wasn't just good with the Lightning and good with this team. He was great with Buffalo, with Toronto, with Tampa. At a time, he was the all-time power play goals leader until a guy named Alexander beat him recently. Yeah, no, Dave Andreychuk. I'm shocked. I was able to take him with this last pick, and I'm a little shocked at myself that it took me this long to realize.
Yeah. A little disappointed in myself for actually I didn't consider him, which I think I was looking elsewhere, especially considering who I have as my last pick instead, because Andy was a heck of a player for the Lightning. Two things I remember most about him was his backhand on the penalty kill before the new scoreboard was put into place. I remember that he could actually lift his backhand to clear the puck over the scoreboard.
Wow.
Almost like Napoleon Dynamite. He'd throw a pigskin clear over the mountains. He could actually do it, though. He'd lift that thing so high. And the other thing is I got a chance to meet him, and his hands were just massive paws. I mean, he had these hands that were huge, and as big as his hands were, there's some silky mitts when they're on the ice, because he definitely was really good in close and good with his stick work.
I guess you'd call him like the archetype of like what you want in a power forward.
Oh yeah. 6'4", 225 pounds, and he was put him right in front of the net, and he'd get those rebounds, screen tip rebound type of goals.
So now you have to follow that up with somebody to close us out here, Joe.
Man, I don't know that I can. I can't quite to the same level as Andreychuk, but I can put somebody that has some very, very memorable moments on the ice, some really funny ones off the ice, and then up until a couple of years ago, some even funnier ones at the local rink because he was playing men's league there, and that's going to be Vinny Prospal. And Prospal was somebody that was on the team, but basically was traded for the year that the Lightning won the Cup. He went to the Ducks just for that year, and then ended up coming back and missed out on it. But he famously feuded with Tortorella, and he basically was it the quote. Maybe Eureka can pull it up and then put it on the screen if I can't find it. But yeah, he feuded with them pretty heavily, and it came out in the press. He always, when he would skate down the ice really hard, he'd hold his stick in a way that looked like he was kayaking as well. Like he would.
Oh, really?
Kind of do that number as he was going down. Huge celebrations. Kind of like Ovechkin in a sense, where every goal was a cup-winning goal for him, and a lot of memories.
Okay. Yeah. Again, I don't know how many times I can say this. I'm really showing my young age with how I never got to watch these guys or anything like that. So I really don't know a whole lot about them other than, again, to watch highlights. But there is something about Rick Peckham calling a Vinny Prospal goal that is just very cathartic and satisfying to me. It just sounds correct. It sounds like it belongs. A Rick Peckham calling any goal is just, again, the gold standard. I think he's one of, if not the best play-by-play guy ever. But a Vinny Prospal, Rick Peckham called goal just hits. It just hits differently to me for whatever reason. It just sounds like it belongs.
Yeah, absolutely. Someone that would throw himself into the glass for sure on a goal. Oh, here, all right. So here's thank you, Eureka. So he pulled it up. When Tortorella cut Prospal's ice time, he went out and scored 2 goals and issued this legendary missive in an interview in which he revealed his motivation was to shove it up to somebody's butt. That's what he dedicated that 2-goal performance to, was his coach, John Tortorella.
That's a great quote. I've never heard that quote before.
Could you even imagine what the reporter was thinking, getting that as a response?
Oh, God, I can't imagine. Hopefully Jake gets an interview like that, with his baseball interviews or something like that.
That'd be great to get him on some sort of a reel that we can, something that goes viral.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that'd be great. We need to get Jake viral.
All right, so I got we got all of our guys covered, but I figured there might be an honorable mention or two. If you've got one on your board, I got one on mine.
Honorable mention. A lot of these guys are saying. I think Daniel, you're saying there's a lot of good guys left. You could use a third team. A third person would have been fun in this, but if you guys also have anybody you have in mind, drop them down in the comments. We'll bring them up. One person that I was thinking about doing. This is a kind of one that got away person for me. Somebody I liked when he was on the team, but didn't really get much playing time. He was always buried on the 4th line. Carter Verhaeghe, especially because it has come back to bite us pretty good. You can't really argue that he was much of an icon or fan favorite here or anything like that, but he simply was one that got away. He signed in Florida on a cheap deal. We really didn't have the money for him. I know we would have liked to keep him. There wasn't a space for him, but man, just looking at the player that he has become, it's revisionist history. You can't do anything about it. It's in the past. He is one that got away. I like him as a player. I liked him back then, and I really like him currently. He's a mainstay on my fantasy team. He's always a bargain bin find. You can find him, on the waiver wire sometimes. So, again, just an underrated, great player. I'm happy he's flourishing in Florida. It's sad that it's at the Lightning's expense. So he's an honorable mention for me. Did you have anybody in mind?
Someone that I brought up last show as well, Frederick Modine, somebody that was, again, a cup winner with the Lightning. And although he's only here for a few seasons, really, he's somebody that played a huge part in that the chemistry on that team. So I think he's a guy that ends up being kind of an iconic player for us. So let's go back through our picks real quick. Starting with yours, you had Marty St. Louis. Oh, here we go. Perfect. Marty St. Louis, Yanni Gourde, Dave Anderchuk on defense, Sergachev and Boyle in net. We have Bishop. I mean, that's a strong team.
I like that team. Whoever drafted that team is probably pretty smart, handsome,
and good at the hockeys. That's
I wouldn't argue that. I mean,
that's great. It's a great selection. All those guys are definitely legendary on there. And then for my set, we've got Johnson, Bradley, Prospel on defense, McDonough and Strawman. Oh man, you even got the character above the A there. That's great. And the Bulin wall, Hobby Bulin. So if you're watching, what do you think about these selections? List your own favorite players and definitely put in some of your favorite memories. And I think that there's definitely a few players that are left on the board that we could have mentioned. It's fun to bring up some of the guys that kind of get missed in these lists because we go with the ones that have been drafted by the Lightning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, some that even in Daniel's party message, his party lineup, there's some good players again, being Shattenkirk and all that too. There are some really good players, but this is also again just a testament. Oh my God, we got the news banner down there too. That's crazy. Breaking news: Matt's team smokes Joe's team. No, kidding. But again, it just kind of goes to show how well this team has drafted, through the years, finding diamonds in the rough like Nikita Kucherovs and Braden Points, Andre Palat's and all those guys. And then getting the hits with the first overall picks. We've done pretty well on the first overall pick, or like the really high picks with Stamkos and Hedman and
but also
Vinny Lecount.
Really, really, really well on some of those later picks.
Later picks, oh yeah.
And some scouting, which we definitely need to do an episode on the history of scouting with the Lightning.
Maybe that'll happen sometime soon. You got to come back next week or maybe the week after that to find out. You just got to keep tuning in to RBLR Lightning if you want to be a part of that show, because we will do it.
And thank you very much for tuning in. We definitely appreciate it. Make sure you have subscribed on YouTube. Again, hit the notification bell so you know when we go live with these episodes and you can join in and chat. We really appreciate all the messages. It keeps it fresh and fun for us, as well as seeing you guys talk to each other in there. So thank you very much for watching. As always, go Bolts.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.